Hello, and welcome to another edition of Living in the Sprawl, Southern California's most adventurous podcast. My name is Jon Steinberg, your humble correspondent and host, sitting alongside my lovely and talented producer slash fiance. Her name is Lisa Lowe. You'll be hearing from her on forthcoming episodes. We are working on some things behind the scenes in order to get her comfortable with appearing on air. I'm just kidding. She's shaking her head at me right now. A very exciting episode of the program today, our 11th installment of the show. A bit of a passion project for your humble correspondent and host as we bring to you 10 Southern California-based Top Chef contestants and their noteworthy restaurants. We adore Bravo's Top Chef. We love it. During the coronavirus pandemic, I had the opportunity to watch 17 seasons of Bravo's hit reality show, and I was struck by how many of the contestants throughout the program's 18 seasons now have come out of our ranks. They're from San Diego, Orange County, Los Angeles, the Central Coast, all over our great region. And I wanted to provide listeners with a helpful guide as to how to approach eating at some of their various establishments. Now, given the fickle and unpredictable nature of the restaurant industry, take this guide for what it's worth. As I'm recording this, we are in the year of our Lord 2021. But if recent events have taught us anything, who knows what lies beyond tomorrow. I'm not sure how long these establishments will be around, whether it's a year, 5, 10, 25, etc., etc. But for capturing a time and a place and a moment in the cross-section of the culinary and entertainment worlds, I thought this would be a tremendous place for us to start. So, here we go. At number 10, Ramen Hood from Chef Ilan Hall, who competed on Season 2 of Top Chef Los Angeles. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't watched this particular season. He won, and Ramen Hood is a stall inside of Grand Central Market, which was covered in detail on episode 1 in our discussion on the best neighborhoods in Los Angeles. And amidst the tens of stalls inside Broadway Street's historic Grand Central Market sits this all-vegan ramen option from a Top Chef winner. This was not the first restaurant that Ilan Hall opened in Los Angeles. Prior to this, he had the Gorbals, which offered, in addition to other delicacies, haggis. Really the only place that you could find haggis at the time. And interesting to note that Hall is from Great Neck, New York, born to a Scottish father, so I have to imagine that's where the idea for the haggis came. But with Ramen Hood, the vegan stall inside of Grand Central Market, you won't find haggis on the menu, but what you will find is an ensemble of delightful ramen dishes that veer away from the tonkatsu formula, which, though delicious, can be a bit overbearing at times, particularly in the hotter months of the year. Now, Ilan Hall operates in a bi-coastal manner as he resides now in New York and has a couple of places in the Big Apple. But Ramen Hood sits as a testament to the culinary power that Southern California inevitably offers to prospective chefs interested in accessing a wide range of consumers. So right alongside multiple taco stands and Chinese, Peruvian, etc., etc. in Grand Central Market. Right there, you've got Ramen Hood from Top Chef Season 2 winner Ilan Hall. At number 9, a mini chain, Sweetfin Poké from Season 9 contestant Dakota Weiss. So, as of this recording, there are at least 10 Sweetfin Poké locations in the Southern California area, running from Santa Monica's west side to Burbank, 3rd Street, downtown, and all of the other neighborhoods that you might assume an establishment such as this would be available. Here you have what might be construed as a kind of Chipotle-esque approach to poke. You pick your ingredients, it's all right there in front of you, and you are able to witness your poke bowl being assembled right before your very eyes. Dakota Weiss previously worked at the W Hotel in Westwood, and though she wasn't around until the bitter end, again, spoiler alert, during her run on season 9, she did have a bit of a memorable send-off, competing in a paired-off challenge with fellow Los Angeles-based chef Nyasha Arrington. And I won't spoil how it happens, but suffice to say, by the end of the episode, both women have been asked to pack their knives and go, and Dakota Weiss has succumbed to a bout of tears. I'm not the world's biggest poke supporter, but I do understand why the Hawaiian option has soared in popularity over the past decade or so. It's a quick, relatively healthy, depending on some of the selections that are made, option that office workers can get in, get out, and consume in under 30 minutes. It's time conscious, relatively health conscious, and delicious enough to not make you feel as though you are participating in a prolonged cleanse of some kind as you eat your poke. I anticipate more and more Sweetfin outlets to come in the future. This really seems to be a chain that has legs. As I mentioned, it kind of feels like Chipotle sweet green option when it comes to this particular culinary offering. And I've listened to a couple of interviews with Miss Weiss, and she is a very intelligent woman who has clearly found her culinary niche. Number 8, we head down to San Diego, and we check in with Brian Malarkey from Top Chef Season 3 in Miami and Top Chef All-Stars Los Angeles with his flagship Herb and Wood in Little Italy. Interestingly enough, this Mediterranean-inspired option is literally across the street from another establishment that we will discuss a little bit later on in today's show. So on one American block, you have multiple restaurants from Top Chef contestants who both finished in the top 3 on different seasons. Malarkey, I've never met the guy, but everyone just calls him Malarkey if you've watched his appearances on Top Chef. Kind of seems like a more locked-in version of Job from Arrested Development. I'm an ideas man, Michael. He seems like he's got just a ton of concepts, ingenuity to spare, and creativity for days. If you happened to see the conclusion of season 3, you'll know what I'm talking about. This is a gentleman whose imagination sometimes outpaces his talent, but whether it's serving as a phenomenal front of house staff member on Restaurant Wars, or coming up with notions for any of his multiple successful establishments, Brian Malarkey is a culinary force, and we are overjoyed to have him representing Southern California. Little Italy was also mentioned on our episode dealing with our favorite international enclaves in Southern California. Certainly an area that is quickly emerging as a preferred destination for dining, drinking, and having a phenomenal time in one of the most beautiful American cities that we have writ large. I should mention that all seasons of Top Chef are available on Hulu. And for those of you who look at, okay, there are 17 seasons, wow, this seems extremely intimidating and like an enormous mountain that we have to climb in terms of a time investment. Don't think of it that way. As in the words of Christina Applegate's boss from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, don't get overwhelmed. Just do one thing at a time. So just do an episode, and I guarantee that it will lead to a second episode, and the pattern will repeat itself in terms of seasons. I recommend starting with season 6. That one's quite a bit of fun. In any event, Brian Malarkey's Urban Wood at number 8. At number 7, Pasta Bar from season 13 contestant Philip Franklin Lee. Full confession or admission, this restaurant is a 3-minute walk from where this podcast is being broadcast. And it's actually part of a nucleus of restaurants from the Southern California-based chef. He's also got Scratch Bar, Sushi Bar. At one point, there was Leviathan. There's been a lot going on in an unorthodox strip mall on Ventura Boulevard in Encino. I haven't dined at Scratch Bar or Sushi Bar, but I had the pleasure of having a tasting menu experience at Pasta Bar. Philip Franklin Lee, PFL, as my fiance and I like to refer to him, did not necessarily have the best Top Chef experience of any contestant that I can remember. For those of you that have seen season 13, which was the California-based season, feathers were ruffled, and ultimately, I kind of think Philip Franklin Lee emerged as something of a wrestling-style heel during competition, stubborn and overly committed to quote-unquote excellence. If you watch season 13, you might be dissuaded from sampling the cuisine at his multiple Encino-based restaurants. But I would urge you to reconsider, as Pasta Bar is a pretty damn novel concept. It is your prototypical tasting menu, but each course, unlike omakase at a sushi restaurant, does consist of a pasta dish. With one notable exception, every dish was pretty great. Now, that exception almost single-handedly drove the experience down to a negative, but for a 10-course meal, 9, well, let's say 8 out of 10 is a pretty solid batting average. Now, I know that PFL attempted to open what he believed would be Southern California's first 3 Michelin-starred restaurant in Montecito when he opened the Silver Bow a couple of years back. Now, that restaurant folded. Ambition is to be rewarded, though, here on Living in the Sprawl. And though that particular incarnation of PFL's vision didn't work out in the end, with concepts like Pasta Bar, he has the potential to go as far as a chef can go in his field. Yes, there have been hiccups along the way. At one point, there was a restaurant called Woodley Proper, where Pasta Bar sits currently, but he's young enough, clearly ambitious enough, and potentially talented enough to truly make a go of it. At number 7, PFL, Philip Franklin Lee's Pasta Bar. At number 6, Scopa Italian Roots in Venice from Antonia Lofaso, who competed on seasons 4, which was in Chicago, and on which she finished in the top 3. She made it all the way to the final. And the first edition of All Stars, which was season 8, where she also made it to the final. Now, this is not the only Antonia Lofaso eatery in the Los Angeles area. She has 2 others. And as was the case for a couple of other prior episodes, I'd like to leave a little bit of meat on the bone here to potentially pick the concept back up for a part 2. So we won't talk about her other 2 places. We're going to focus in on Scopa Italian Roots on Washington Boulevard in Venice. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. And when I saw Scopa as the kind of almost the centerpiece of an episode on the 10th season of the program, I was truly excited. It's the episode where Larry befriends a character portrayed by Fred Armisen, and they all have to meet up for a group dinner. It's a sleek, innovative menu paired with a beverage list that is second to none, and her culinary talents are on full display with the traditional Italian dishes that are included on the menu. I find it interesting that Antonia Lofaso was once the sous chef at Puff Daddy's restaurant in New York, Justin, named after his son. And I guess it was there that she met Heavy D, and the 2 must have had a romance because a daughter emerged a little bit later, and that daughter is now a grown woman. Antonia Lofaso is a force to be reckoned with during her appearances on Top Chef. She really mixes it up with some of the other competitors and has a kind of frenemy relationship with Richard Blaze that is pretty fun to follow. I don't know that I would have voted her into the final in either season 4, which was the one in Chicago, or 8, which was All Stars New York. But during her time in the competition, she would do just enough to keep surviving with occasional flourishes and highlights so that she did ultimately make it to the final twice, which is really saying something. I had a phenomenal time at Scopa Italian, and it's not in the part of Venice that seems to be overrun by, let's be kind and call them kooky participants kind of near the boardwalk. It's more in an industrial ish part of Venice, and the vibe inside and outside is simply spectacular. And that's why we have put it here at number 6 on Living in the Sprawls, 10 Southern California-based Top Chef contestants and their noteworthy restaurants. And number 5, Miss Chi in Culver City from Top Chef alum Shirley Chung, who competed on multiple seasons, first appearing on season 11, which took place in New Orleans, and then a couple of years later on season 14, which was filmed in Charleston, South Carolina. Now, if you've had the pleasure of watching either of these seasons, you will undoubtedly remember Shirley's iconic laugh. I'm not going to try to replicate it on this here podcast. I will simply mention it in the fondest possible way that I can muster. That is a laugh for the ages. Now, at Miss Chi, you will find a mixture of Shirley's passionate commitment to her Chinese ancestry, melded with a bit of Top Chef flair, notably in dishes like the hamburger dumplings. There's a hot dog dumpling that you can get at Miss Chi that I would recommend. It sounded a little bit suspect, but after sampling it myself, I awarded a passing grade. She's the type of contestant that I wish could appear on every single season until she finally wins the competition. She just adds a level of playful mischief and wisecracking, fiery, smart Alec-ness that is always appreciated. I'd argue she should have gone even further on New Orleans, and she was eliminated a little bit too soon for my liking on Charleston as well. She has a fun relationship with Brooke Williamson, who also appeared on multiple seasons, and her background as a Chinese woman is in the culinary traditions of her forebears. So I remember one snippet from an episode where she's talking about, I forget if it's jambalaya or gumbo, something along those lines, and she asserts that, listen, I'm Chinese. I make Chinese food. I don't know anything about gumbo or jambalaya. And this is part of what makes Top Chef so charming each and every season that it's on the air. It forces all of us to reckon with our own preferences, predilections, and sets of life experience that lead us to the knowledge base that we develop. Part of my favorite thing to do in Southern California is dining at restaurants from cuisines with which I'm unfamiliar. So, for example, this weekend, I'm hoping it'll be Russian. I haven't really had Russian food very much. And on another weekend, it might be Eritrean, and so on, making the experience of living in this beautiful, sprawling metropolis that is Southern California a way to connect and interact with the rest of the world without having to board an airplane and eat mediocre pretzels in coach. Shirley Chung's Miss Chi at number 5. At number 4, Playa Provisions from season 14 winner Brooke Williamson, who first came to the attention of Top Chef audiences during her appearance on Top Chef Seattle, season 10. So Williamson formerly had a couple of other places that she had to let go of during the pandemic. So Playa Provisions is currently the jewel of her former culinary empire on the west side of Los Angeles. So this is this is the most interesting place to eat in the Playa del Rey region. A spectacular patio situation nestled not that far away from the beach. The restaurant reflects Brooke's immense talent, but humble Southern California upbringing. She is the kind of competitor with every conceivable tool at her disposal, and yet she would seemingly prefer to cast flair to the side in preference of a more manageable approach to dining out. She could make a 3 Michelin star style French-inspired culinary experience, but that would be disingenuous to the person that she is. She's a family woman, formerly owner of Hudson House, which she named after her son. And again, this is the type of chef with 3 Michelin star talent that could be whipping up 100 variations on a steak Diane at a restaurant inside the Beverly Hills Hotel if she wanted, but it is just better for her and her culinary aspirations to have a place like Playa Provisions where she can offer deluxe sandwiches and meals that the whole family can enjoy. Because I'm sure that's the type of place where she herself would want to go and have the ability to bring her son along. Her season 10 appearance, which saw her come in second place, losing in semi-brutal fashion to Kristen Kish in the finale, was certainly memorable. Her kind of rolling her eyes at the exploits of Stefan Richter and a couple of other contestants. She reminds me a bit of Kawhi Leonard type, where she has all the talent in the world, doesn't need to verbalize that or throw that in anyone's face, is happier doing what makes her comfortable with extraordinary talent brimming and accompanying each of her actions. We are big fans of Brooke Williamson here at Living in the Sprawl. We dined at her now closed establishments, the Tripel and Hudson House, and very much recommend Playa Provisions in Playa del Rey. Number 3, we head back down to San Diego, Little Italy, in San Diego, where we sit down for a meal at Richard Blaze's Juniper and Ivy. Again, this is the restaurant that is legitimately across the street from Herb and Wood. Now, Richard Blaze appeared with Antonia Lofaso on both season 4 and season 8 of Bravo's hit reality show competition program, and he was the winner of season 8. And it was during that season, there was one other season, season 6, the one where Michael Voltaggio cleaned house, where he had things kind of locked up the entire time. He was playing chess while everybody else was playing checkers. Richard Blaze is sublimely talented. His level of creativity is almost awe-inspiring when you think about the dish that he created for the season 8 finale, which garnered him the victory. And this chef, who was originally from New York, spent some time in Atlanta, a couple other parts of the country, Napa, where he worked at the French Laundry, found his groove in San Diego. He's got a podcast that I listened to a number of times in the past, Starving for Attention, that he would host with his wife Jasmine, and I really like his personality. He's a man who's interested in, of course, food and sports and music, pop culture, kind of all the things that I find interesting as well. And a lot of that comes to bear on the menu at Juniper and Ivy. His whimsical approach to dining, fine dining without the price tag, found much fanfare in San Diego's Little Italy community. He's also got a fast casual concept called Crack Shack, which I could feel the name changing any month now. But there are multiple branches of that at the Westfield in Century City. There's one in Pasadena, a few others. Great sandwich from there. But if you really want to have a Richard Blaze culinary experience, you have to get yourself down to Little Italy in San Diego. where a meal at Juniper and Ivy will please anyone truly interested in culinary excellence. At number 2, Orange County makes an appearance on the list with Amar Santana's Vaca. Santana competed on season 13, the same season as Philip Franklin Lee, and he actually came in second. And I thought he should have won the season. I know Jeremy Ford also had a strong run, but Amar's ceiling, in the parlance of sports fans, was a bit higher, in my humble opinion. On this menu, I hope this doesn't get him in trouble, but it was the only place in Southern California that I've been able to find genuine foie gras, and it was breathtaking to see it right there on the Vaca menu and to be able to order it so that my fiance could try it for herself for the first time. A beautiful mixture of family-inspired recipes with a fine dining affection. Vaca is the type of place that might otherwise be located inside a place like the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills, but it is in a kind of unassuming corner of Santa Ana, not that far away from where I grew up. He is the kind of competitor who mainly does the talking with his food, being able to construct immaculate dishes at the drop of a hat. Seriously, I feel like he should have won season 13. Alas, it didn't happen, but for Southern California residents and for anyone visiting Southern California, if you do find yourself in the Orange County area, I highly recommend Vaca almost over any other restaurant in any of the cities in Orange County. A truly special place from a culinary master. At number 1 on Living in the Sprawl's 10 Southern California-based Top Chef contestants and their noteworthy restaurants is Nightshade from season 12 winner May Lin. She absolutely crushed her Boston season, and I have had the opportunity to go to an event at which she appeared, and let me just describe the outfit that she was wearing for a moment. Well, all I really need to say is leather jacket. Yeah, not a chef to be messed around with. Her Nightshade menu leans heavily on her Asian American background, with Nashville style quail being a particular highlight for me during my experience. Now, again, I want to leave room for a part 2, so I won't belabor the point, but she's also got an enormously popular casual hot chicken location called Daybird that I haven't been to yet, but hope to get to soon enough. And I am a really big fan of Maylin's style, what with the leather jacket and all, and her approach to the restaurant experience. Season 12 was the first one that I ever watched, quickly developing an admiration for Katsuji. I mean, he used to have a restaurant in Southern California, and I was hoping that I could put it on this list, but alas, he is no longer connected to it, so I can't in good conscience do that. But watching May Lin play off of Katsuji, Gregory, some of the other competitors on season 12 in Boston really allowed her to shine and become a culinary rock star, the type that wears leather jackets to lectures at tea shops in Chinatown on Sunday mornings. And with that, we conclude another episode of Living in the Sprawl, Southern California's most adventurous podcast. We want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all of your support. Way to connect with the program, our Instagram account, Living in the Sprawl Podcast. That is our handle if you would like to reach out to us. questions, comments, concerns, anything that you would like for us to know, suggestions, anything of that nature, please write us at livinginthesprawl@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you and correspond with you. If you would like to do us a small favor, we would greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating on Apple or wherever you're listening to the show. Those ratings serve as kind of a lifeblood for podcasts writ large. They help to drive you up the charts and gain more exposure from a wider audience. Any nice reviews that you would like to leave are also tremendously appreciated. So on behalf of my beautiful, lovely, and talented producer/fiance, Lisa Lowe, my name is Jon Steinberg, your humble correspondent and host. Audience, please pack your knives and go. Until next time.